car for 10 or 15 minutes, get it good and warm, and then make your test, and you'll find a bad one, if it is bad, just as you and I have done now.
Okay, and this could cause our problem with the engine stalling at idle, as well as our intermittent check engine light.
That's right.
Now, there's two styles of these, correct?
It sure is. This one is a 3-terminal, and as soon as I get everything disconnected, perhaps we can show that there are actually 3 terminals in here, and that's where we had the tools connected a few moments ago.
Okay.
Now, the one I'm bringing up alongside is a 5-terminal, and you can see we've got a different type of connector on there, so we can get into all 5 terminals.
Okay.
So what we'll do then is connect our universal tester into the lead, and that will power the mass airflow sensor, and then hook up the tachometer to the output, and we should be getting a reading.
We are getting a reading.
And the light should be flickering.
And our light is flickering.
Okay, now, all I have to do is, again, blow through the device, and we'll see if it works. We'll check the gauge first, I guess.
All right. Gauge goes way up.
Okay,
196
great.
counts, back down.
And now how about the light?
Yep, same thing with the light. Now the light is actually going to almost a full steady beam, so that's showing us our frequency change.
Right. And then, of course, if we were to tap on the thing, it should be fairly steady, instead of jumping all over the place like it did the last time.
Yep, no change at all.
Okay, great. So now we know we've got a good one. Now, since this is a good one, though, it's not the type of problem that you're having. So if you test your mass airflow sensor and find it to pass the test, you're going to have to go into your diagnostic troubleshooting chart and follow the directions here to arrive at either a bad wiring harness or an electrical connection, maybe even a bad computer.
Okay, but we can do these same tests right on the vehicles. We've got one sitting over there. We'll disconnect our equipment. We'll meet you right over at the car. Okay, now we're over at the vehicle, and Jim, why don't we explain to them how we've hooked the meter and our tester up?
Well, this particular mass airflow sensor is a 3-terminal sensor, so we're going to have to use our universal lead again. It's even marked. We don't have to look this one up in the book. It says A, B, and C, plus, minus, and A, it will be frequency. Now, all we have to do is connect the red lead of our tester to C, because it says plus, that's power.
Sure.
We connect the black lead of the tester to B, because it's got the negative mark there, that's ground. And on the A terminal, where the pulses will come out of, we'll connect our tachometer lead, the red one. And now the other end of the tachometer, the black one, we must ground somewhere. So you could use an engine ground. I like to use the back terminal on the universal tester, because that is the negative terminal when it's connected to a battery. And by the way, the battery we have it connected to is the car's battery. We're using the 12-volt adapter here because this is a 12-volt device.
Sure.
Now, the green lead will be connected to the tach lead because we want to measure those pulses, and it also powers the whole tester up. See, our light just came on when I made that connection.
Sure.
Now, let me just mention this white lead. This is a positive or a hot lead, and I've got it clipped out of the way here so it doesn't bounce on the engine somewhere and perhaps arc and cause a problem. So just get that one clipped out of the way.
Good idea. Then we'll take our tachometer and we'll put that on the 4-cylinder scale. And as you can see, we're not getting any reading with the vehicle. The engine not running, no air going through it. And our light, if you can hold that over here a little bit, Jim, our light is just steady right now. So
that's right. That's very common on really late model mass airflow sensors because they don't produce any reading at all until air is actually blowing across it. So if I go start the engine now, we should be able to get that type of a reading.
Okay, let's try it. Getting much of a reading here, so I'm just going to flip her down to another scale, and sure. Okay, I just took it down to the 8-cylinder scale. So if you don't get a reading on your vehicle when it's on the 4-cylinder scale, just flip it down to another scale until you do get your reading.
Right, that'll be common with late model vehicles also. So just use your tachometer, get it onto a scale that gives you some sort of an indication. Now, I'll rev up the engine a little bit, and we'll see if we get any kind of a response. Now you can see that we do have a response, and we know that the sensor is producing a frequency. Now to test it, to find out if we have any loose connections inside, in the electronics portion, we'll use the screwdriver again to tap test.
Okay, and our reading stays pretty constant.
I'll turn it off.
Now, the other thing that you want to look for when you're performing a tap test is when you have the engine running, you tap that mass airflow sensor and you listen for any RPM change in the engine. If you've got a sudden drop in RPM or a little blip in RPMs, that's telling you you've got a bad mass airflow.
Let's review how to test a mass airflow sensor that has been removed from the vehicle. Connect the mass airflow sensor tester to a 12-volt power supply. Connect the universal tester leads and the digital volt-ohm-meter leads to the sensor. Turn the meter on and set the scale to 4-cylinder tach or RPM. Observe and record the meter readings. Blow through the sensor and observe the difference in the meter reading. Next, tap on the sensor and observe any meter reading changes. If the mass airflow sensor passes these tests, locate and follow a diagnostic chart to pinpoint your specific problem. Now let's review the testing of a mass airflow sensor while it is still installed on the vehicle. Connect the digital volt-ohm-meter leads and the universal tester leads to the mass airflow sensor. Connect the universal tester power lead to a 12-volt power source. Observe and record the initial meter reading. Start the engine. Observe and compare the meter reading to the initial reading. Increase the engine RPM and watch for a change in the meter reading. Next, tap on the sensor and observe any meter changes or fluctuations in engine RPM.
To replace your mass airflow sensor, the tools you will need include a regular screwdriver, a 1/4-inch drive socket set, standard or metric wrenches, possibly some Torx bits, and the correct mass airflow sensor for your vehicle. The first step whenever working on the electrical system is to turn off all the accessories, including the ignition key. If you are working in the area of the electric fan, make sure to disconnect the wire leading to it or remove its fuse from the fuse block. This will prevent the fan from starting up suddenly and causing physical injury. On many General Motors vehicles, the mass airflow sensor will be located in the air duct between the air cleaner and throttle body. Once the mass airflow sensor has been found, remove the harness connector. Note how it plugs into the sensor. This is important for correct installation of the new sensor. Inspect the harness connector for cracks in the wires or corrosion on the connector. If found, repair any broken wires and clean any corrosion from the terminals. Loosen the clamps securing the mass airflow sensor in the air duct, located between the air cleaner and throttle body, and move the clamps down the air duct hose. Remove any brackets or other mounting hardware as necessary. Separate the mass airflow sensor from the air ducts and remove the sensor from the vehicle. Save any mass airflow sensor to air duct seals if so equipped. Compare the old sensor to the new sensor to be sure of correct replacement. With the sensor removed, you can inspect the honeycomb for damage. If the honeycomb is scratched or damaged, a new sensor must be installed. Before installing the new sensor, inspect the air ducts for damage or possible restrictions. Replace the air ducting if damage is noticed. Reinstall any sensor to air duct seals on the new sensor. Position the new sensor into the air ducts, making sure the airflow directional arrow on the sensor is pointing towards the throttle body. Move the clamps to the ends of the new sensor and tighten them. Check to be sure the sensor to air cleaner connections are airtight or the sensor will not work properly. Carefully reconnect the harness connector lead into the new mass airflow sensor. Remove the air cleaner cover and inspect the air filter. If the filter is dirty, wet, or clogged, replace the air filter with a new one. Reinstall the air cleaner cover. Reconnect the electric fan connector or reinstall the fuse if earlier removed. On many late model General Motors vehicles,